how's it going, and welcome to the Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. This is going to be the first in a series of 2 videos about this, the new Amp Academy Stomp from NUX. This is NUX's new kind of flagship amp modeler in a box device, I guess you'd call it. And they sent it out to me. I'm keeping this, but they're not paying me to make this video. All my thoughts are my own. And it's an impressive piece of kit, right? So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, sometimes I find the internet quite interesting. 2 people have made videos about this, 2 YouTubers, where they've sort of said that this is sort of defining the end of the evolution of amp modeling, as in, if NUX can make something that sounds this good for, this is about €279 I think, that can load captures, that modeling has sort of reached its peak. I find that to be a very interesting sentiment. There's been one moment in the last while where I have been really amazed by a piece of digital amp modeling technology, and that was the first time I tried the JTM45 amp model that I downloaded from Moore's community. It's not a Moore model, it's by someone else in their community, but I loaded it onto one of their products, and I was blown away by how amazing and immediately inspirational that amp tone was. Other than that, and that was one amp model, or one amp capture, to say. I got the Tone X, I got loads of amp models and I thought, yeah, they're grand. I haven't tried a Quad Cortex, it's a bit outside my price range, but I've demoed a lot of amp modeling stuff, and to me, once you get a usable amp tone, I'm peeking here a little bit, once you get a usable amp tone, you're kind of there. Like, I think there's an awful lot of scrutiny put on how perfect the sounds out of these things are, and if you can get a sound that sits well in a recording that allows you to play, stop thinking about it and start thinking about what songs you're writing and what music you're making and what your band is doing or what your output is. I think none of these devices will ever replace an amp on stage for me. They just won't. The music I play, and probably the age I am, to be fair, I much prefer to have an amp on stage. If I can have an amp on stage that has an XLR out at the back of it, and the guys in front of the house want to do whatever they want to do with that, that's great. But I want a tube amp, really, with the sagginess and response of a tube amp on stage. To talk about this, right, that aside, this is a 3-button amp modeler that has their new super detailed, technologically advanced amp modeling algorithms in it that genuinely do sound really initially amazing. And I will say, NUX, the Solid Studio Mark II, is the best amp modeler I've tried still in a long time. It's the most immediately great sounding one. It's compact. This sounds probably as good or better than that. But it has some bells and whistles that I think, for the job that it needs to do, I don't need, whereas the Solid Studio Mark II, which is also from NUX, is exactly where I need it to be. It also has a really good editor called Monarch that you can use on your phone with this Bluetooth adapter, which comes included, as does a 2-button foot switch. This one here also comes included, which is an amazing thing for €279. Just amazing. NUX are amazing. And on the back then it has MIDI in, MIDI out, aux in and phones. It has 2 balanced TRS outputs, it has an input, and it has a send and return, which is really important. And then what this is it's an entire signal chain. Well, it's not. It's a compressor, sorry, it's a noise-gated compressor, an overdrive, or distortion or fuzz, to be fair. It is an amp model, like a preamp, with a power amp selectable. It is a impulse response, and it is delay and reverb. What's not here is mod or pitch shifting, which, in order for this to be a complete solution for me, for example, I would need mod and I would need pitch shifting. So it's not a HX Stomp replacement, for want of a better word. HX Stomp is a multi-effects amp modeler. This is an amp modeler that has some really usable and handy to have effects, but it's not a complete solution in my opinion, because without mod and pitch effects, it can't be. Now, I think NUX could quite easily add that to this in time, but at what it does, which is amp modeling, it does it extremely well. At least I think, straight out of the gate, not having spent a huge amount of time with it, it does it extremely well. So I'm 6 minutes into the intro with my rant earlier on. let's take a listen to it now. You'll see what all the controls do. There's no point in me going into them without the screen. It's very hard to explain. This is an extremely impressive piece of kit. Thanks very much to NUX for sending it out, and here are the sounds. Okay, so it's a demo of the Amp Academy Stomp. I've got a pretty simple setup, right? I'm playing my Bernie Les Paul here, which is just a P90 equipped Les Paul copy. I'm going into a pedal board which has a compressor, a drive, a chorus, and a delay on it, and then out of that into the Amp Academy Stomp, and then out of the Amp Academy Stomp in stereo into 2 channels on each face. For this video, I'm not going to use a pedal board at all. Okay, I'll just be going straight into the Amp Academy Stomp. And as I said in the intro, what I want to cover off in this first video is just like how the thing sounds. So I have 3 different amp models set up, and within each amp model I have 3 different scenes. I may or may not touch on the scenes today, but what I'm going to show is the 3 different amp models, what they sound like, and then how you can use the onboard effects with them to augment them, right? So the 3 different amp models I have. The first one is a Vox AC30. The second one's a JTM 45. And the last one is a Deluxe Reverb, which has a delay on for some reason that I don't want. So let me just save that without the delay. So that's the 3 amp sounds I have. So starting with the AC30. The AC30 is just the inbuilt AC30 model with it's a vintage 30 speaker on one side that is an impulse response that I got from Celestial on my own, like a 2x12 vintage 30 cab, and then on the other side it's their Alnico Blue Vox speaker. This will be the sound that if I was going to use this as a direct solution, I would use this very particular like version of the AC30. So it's slightly dirty. It's a kind of sort of indie guitar sound that I like. There's a neck and bridge. So what can I do with this then? Before I get onto that, I'll just go through the three sounds. That's the AC30. Here's the JTM 45, which I would use more as a kind of a Marshall Rocky kind of thing. Neck pickup. So this is again just the standard JTM 45 amp model with that vintage 30 cab with a SM57 on one side and I can't remember what the other mic is. I think it's a Royer on the other side. So it's the same impulse response but with a different mic, and that's built into the pack of impulse responses with that 212 vintage 30 cab I bought. So the last one then is this Deluxe Reverb. So to get here as a neck pickup, clean, sort of soulful thing, it works well. For a kind of picking, almost acoustic quality. Really nice. This is just the Deluxe Reverb, amp model with the Deluxe Reverb 112 cab and then the Blues Deluxe cab on there on both sides, and they're all stock from the unit itself. So there are the 3 amp models that I would have to hand. If I go up to the next bank then, I think here I have a JCM 800 here. It's got a 4x12 cab, and you can hear in the, a little bit of more extra bass end that's there. Truth be told, I put that in just to get a high gain sound should I want one. If I want high gain, I'll generally put fuzz in front of a slightly dirty amp. It's the more kind of character of high gain I like, is more sort of alternative, more so than rocky, but it does the JCM 800 thing quite well. So this is my sound where I live. So there's a couple of cool things about the switching that you can do. You can assign all 4 of these buttons across the front to turn on and off individual effect models on the unit. So I have it, the first one turning on the compressor, the second one turning on the drive, the third one turning on the EQ, and the fourth one turning on and off the reverb. Separate to that, you can plug in this external foot switch, which you get with the unit, which I just think is phenomenal by NUX to give you the external foot switch that you need rather than having to buy it extra. Just brilliant NUX, fair play. So with that, I have the delay turn on and off with the B switch here, and then I have a tap tempo on the A. But I have it set to like 8 notes. So I have so, okay, this is interesting about switching as well. I'm slightly out of tune here, which is a problem, right? So say I want to tune. The only way I can find to activate the tuner is to hold down the switch and then have it set that is set to tuner, and then tap it again, you get into the tuner. Also, the tuner has a strobe thing going on. That I'm not feeling. There may well be the possibility to change that setting about just to make it a regular sharp and flat indication tuner. It's weird. I don't use strobe tuners, at least I think that's what it is. So back to this. Okay, so what are the different settings? So I can turn on the compressor, which really does a nice thing to the sound and brings it all forward. Okay, I can do that. I can turn off the tuner and turn on like a boost. That's a great sound. And that is a model of an exotic AC booster. So with the boost, without it. With it. Then, cool, interestingly, I can also turn on this EQ after the fact, which I've put at a mid bump for solos and a level boost. So, say I'm playing like, and I want to play solo, I can hit this switch. Now it's really, really loud. I'm after clipping the bejesus out of my interface there, so I have that set too loud, but you can put the boost on with a level boost and a mid frequency bump for a lead sound, and you can put it after the amp, which means it's always going to get louder as well, which is really, really good. I could, if I wanted as well, move that before the amp and add a gain boost in front of the amp with a mid push, which also kind of makes it another pedal, really, to be honest with you, which is really useful. So being able to move those modules around is very useful too. And then I have the reverb on the last switch here. Just a spring reverb. And they're what you can control on the front of the unit. Now, say I wanted to add more bass, because I actually think this could have a little bit more bass in it. So I tap this switch, get into edit mode, and then I can use this knob to cycle through, actually it's a tube screen when it was on there, cycle through different modules, okay? So the first module, as I said, the first module is Noisegate, then it's the compressor, there's the drive, the amp. So say I wanted to add more bass. What's interesting is, with excluding the input trim and output level knobs, on the bass knob here, which I think is going to be this one, no, that's the gain, this one, I can add more bass quite easily. section needs that. And then I could, if I wanted to, I could dull it up by taking off treble. I like the treble because I can lose it with my tone knob if I want to. And that's how you would affect the amp. If I hit the switch again, I get my tone cut, which is the overall presence control. So the more you roll it in, the more presence it cuts off, and the more you take it off. On a Vox, this is, the brighter it gets. And then a level control to balance the output of all 3 different amplifiers that I have in this bank of presets. Okay, so same thing. Basic amp, I can turn on a compressor. Tightens it up. I can turn off the compressor, turn on the drive. I can go into the amp should I want to. I can turn on and off the EQ. I can turn it off the reverb, and over here I can turn it off delay. Easy peasy, and the same thing applies with the deluxe reverb. Right, so that's the 3 different sounds that I've set up, and also going back to the Vox, also it's the ways that I can add and subtract different effects from it. Put them wherever I want in the signal chain, how I can edit the amps. The other thing I've done is, really quickly, I've put a small pedal board at the beginning of the chain here. I'm just going to show you what analog pedals sound like, again, into the Vox amp, right? So, basic sound with a compressor. It's the Moore yellow comp. Takes that very well. With a T-Rex Diva drive. With a chorus. And with a delay in front. That is an analog delay from Pigtronics. So it takes pedals in front easily as well as the actual amp would. So no concerns there. So my thoughts at this point are the models sound great. The switching ability is okay. The external foot switch being able to assign whatever you want to it. So I could assign any of the modules to it, and I could assign, in this case I've assigned tap and delay to it, so I can always have my delay and the tap of my delay to hand, and then I can switch between 3 different sounds. You can also then, as you saw there, right, talk about scenes for a sec. So if I hit this knob, it cycles through the scene. So I had set up, right, first Vox, then a higher gain Vox, and then the last one was a Vox with a boost and a delay on it. Now I can change my foot switches to be able to switch between those 3 versions of the Vox instead of switching between the Vox, the Marshall and the Fender. However, I don't think there's any way to do it with combining foot switches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this master menu here. I'm going to go to foot switch mode, foot switch, and then I think if I use this knob, foot switch. Right now it's a preset. I can change it to yeah, I can change it to preset, which switches between the 3 presets. I can change it to scene, which switches between the 3 versions of that preset, or I can switch it to stomp, where I can assign 3 different functions within a preset to these foot switches. So you could, for example, set up a preset where you have just a Vox, you have drive, you have compressor, drive, reverb, and then delay and tap there, for example, if you wanted to. It's not the way I want to use it. But what I can't find at the moment is a way to switch between modes without going into that menu. Again, I'm probably wrong. I probably just haven't had it for long enough. Maybe for the next video I'll have much more of that information. I'll be going into using it as part of a board in the second video, and I think I might be able to give more insight into that there. But right now it seems like the only way to change foot switches modes is in this menu. So I'm going to put that back up to preset and go back out. That's not easy to do. There. So I'm on this 3rd version. So what I want to do is cycle back. No. Oh, it's really getting used to it. Yeah. The first scene. So that's the amp modeling and showing how the amp modeling works. What I want to do now is jump up to, I have done captures here. Right. on 3A here I have Fender image, 3B is Vox image, and 3C is Friedman image. So this is NUX's captures. So they've captured a Deluxe, they've captured an AC30, and they've captured some sort of high gain Friedman. And what I did was I went in and built just 3 presets using these captures to see is there a difference in perceived quality of sound. One thing that I think contributes massively to this is when I use captures, I tend to use captures of full amps and cabs. I don't use a capture of an amp and then add an IR. I prefer to use like a snapshot of an actual rig that someone has put together. And in this, the captures are of the preamp and not the cab, so I've added my own cabs. Reverb's a bit much, so I'm just going to turn it off. Straight off the bat, I don't like that as much as the model. Moving on to the Vox image, same thing applies. Again, I haven't spent as much time tweaking these, but I don't like that as much as the amp model either. And the Friedman. The whole idea with those was the captures, in my opinion, should work pretty much out of the box quicker than the amp models should, because they're capturing a particular amp at a particular moment in time. But without the corresponding cab being part of the capture, I find that more subjective. So with this unit so far, I wouldn't be using certainly the captures that NUX have supplied. I'd be using my own. I'll be using the amp models or exploring getting other NAMM captures. Yeah, so that's kind of it for the demo section. So let's sum up now and my sum up thoughts. The Amp Academy Stomp from NUX. Thanks very much, NUX, for sending it out. So the first thing is, this is a really, really capable and fully featured amp modeler. I don't think this is a complete and utter rig in itself, and I don't think it's intended to be. It's intended to be an amp modeler that has some effects that you can use to build some really usable presets, but like I said at the beginning, to me as a complete solution, it's lacking pitch and mod. So what I don't think it needs to be, or is, as I said at the beginning, is some sort of mark of the pinnacle of the technology of amp modeling. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. This is a really, really good amp modeler for a very, very affordable price that can do a really good job at replacing any amp that you may have, either in the studio or on stage. That's it. We don't need to talk about it being some moment-defining technological leap. It doesn't need to be that. It's just a really, really good amp modeler, same as the Solid Studio 2 is, same as the GE 1000 is from Moore, same as the HX Stomp is. They're all really usable amp modeling devices. It doesn't matter whether or not they are redefining the term or anything, who cares? This is a really, really solid product. It has a really, really good feature set. So that's the end of my rant for this video. It's been really bugging me watching people talking about the wrong things, in my opinion. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment section down below. The next video I make will be taking this and combining it with probably the HX effects to show how it would cope with communication with another device, picking presets, turning on and off individual effects and stuff like that on a preset by preset basis, which I think this could be really, really useful for. So I'll do that next week. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching if you've gotten this far. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video again soon. Take it easy. Bye bye.